Electricity Minister Kgosientsho Ramokgopa is confident, he says, that Eskom will be able to keep up with increased demand in the coming days, and given the chilly weather. And that as the country battles these extremely cold temperatures and snow in some parts due to this cold snap. Ramokgopa says there's been a significant improvement in generation capacity due to various interventions. For more on the story, we're joined this morning by the Executive Director of the SA Energy Forum. Hlathi Madela joins us via our video link this morning. Hlathi, it's great to see you. Thanks very much indeed for coming on. So the Minister says there have been significant improvements in generation and in quite a short period of time. How is this possible?
Good morning to you and good morning to the listeners. It's quite possible. We have to celebrate South Africans from all walks of life, including those ones who are familiar with the situation, who have stood up. And it's a victory that all of us have to celebrate. I can tell you now, I'm sitting here representing three organizations: South African Energy Forum, Economic Intervention Forum of South Africa, starting from the conference that we had in January 28 and 29, saying no to load shedding. We must defeat this. A lot of people came out. We have also had an emergence of the Engineering League of Progress that consists of no less than 784 engineers. And I have been tasked to look at the matter of power and energy security, and there's other people tasked with other streams. So this is possible because we have worked with the government, we have worked with the ministers, we are talking to the ministers, we are talking to the officials, and they're very much welcoming. So we are all contributing, and we are able to eliminate those things that are going to take us longer to fix, but we have hopped on to the things that we can fix now. So it's quite possible, and we are well on our way to do away with load shedding before the end of this year.
Oof. Are you confident to say something like that live on air this morning?
Let me put it this way to you. We haven't even started the 3 units in Gusile, where we got the environmental waiver to start them without the flue gas desulfurization. At the moment, we are actually hovering between Stage 2 and Stage 3, half of that, and the demand at the moment is 32,000. They say it should have been 34 in winter, but the Minister of Electricity and his team and this government has managed to come out from 24,000 megawatts that we had with the previous CEO. We are currently at 2930. So which actually means that effectively we are around Stage 2 load shedding instead of being on Stage 4 load shedding. So the other Stage 2 is taken by the lower demand, which is 32 instead of being 34. But we've done our part, the minister and the government have done our part, because we are currently around 30 instead of the 24. So we are well on our way to completely get rid of this, and we know which units have to be brought back. But I must tell South Africans, there's an elephant in the room. We are trying to stop the government from shutting down the coal power stations that are working very well, like Camden, like Crowdflay, like many others that have closed down. Remember, this previous management closed Komati when it was operating very well, but they didn't tell the public that they were closing it because of the demand of the renewable energy program, not because Komati was not producing power. So we are now blocking this government together with other stakeholders. You will not close down those coal power stations up until we are out of the woods.
You're talking about Komati being closed prematurely, shall we say?
Yes. It was closed. It was closed because there was an agreement that in order for the renewable energy money to flow into the infrastructure of Komati, it wasn't going to flow up until they closed it down. And it still needed to be closed down, but it needed not to be closed down when we are in this dire situation. But what they did last year, they closed it down anyway. So what we've seen other units coming back that were not looked after, but we've also seen some of the power stations, coal power stations, that would have been closed down by now. But because we've got a listening Minister of Electricity and a listening government now, they've delayed their closure. And this is what has brought us here. What we need to do now is to say to them, when the summer comes, don't close any of these power stations up until you've got a new generator coming up, like the 3 units in Gusile, and an additional 3 coming up, and other units in other areas, up until we completely arrest the situation, and only then that we can say we can let the money flow for the renewables, because it comes on the basis that you must close down the coal power stations.
Yeah. So, Hlathi, at the start of our interview, you said, this is something for all of us to celebrate, and I think we can all agree that that is true, given the impact that load shedding has had on our economy, on small businesses. But for the cynics of us in the room who are asking several questions about how this was possible in a context where just 6 months ago, maybe even sooner than that, we were on the way to being, for 2023, to be the worst load shedding year on record. Now, in a very short space of time, just a few months, just a few weeks, we've made these incredible strides. I mean, are these strides that are real, that will have longevity, or are they strides that are right on time for the election next year?
No, they are long, and they have a long longevity, and it really depends on the government if it wants to put the country first versus the investment that it committed itself to. Well, let me put it this way. There's a lot of people who ask me, how come you're appearing on Newzroom? What they don't know is that Newzroom value what I put in for the country. So if you decide today not to invite me, I am gone, and it doesn't really matter how many times I shout. It's the same thing. There are units at Eskom where you need the CEO who just has to bring them back to service so that they can be part of the equations. But if you don't bring them back to the equations, they will not be part of the equation. Hence, if you don't bring me to Newzroom, South Africans will not know about me. So there are still units that need to be brought back to service. And that is why we are quite confident that we will work with the government, provided the government is going to let us work with it secretly without divulging to the public that it is now diverting into plunging the country into unnecessary. We've always said this load shedding was unnecessary, this load shedding was man-made, this load shedding was because of the arrogant people who wanted to rely on independent power producers when the independent power producers should be complementing what is already there or supplementing what is already there. But that was not the thinking previously.
I think it must be the cold weather, because I'm struggling to follow your analogy. But essentially, are you saying that Kgosientsho Ramokgopa, the electricity minister, has really made a big difference?
I'm saying the stakeholders, all of them, have made a difference, and it has helped that the Minister of Electricity is able to challenge some of the things that a lot of people didn't want to be challenged. This is a minister who has just said he went to Vietnam and he sat with the people there. They told him that a solar PV, if you try to connect it to the grid, it destabilizes the grid. Not to say that you shouldn't, but if you put too much of it. Before, we didn't have someone who wanted to challenge those things. This is a minister who's gone time and again to the Minister of Forestry, Fisheries and Environmental Affairs, Barbara Casey, to say, well, you've committed to get us to bring those 3 units in Kusile. Sign here on the dotted line, we're bringing them. I'm hearing that those units will be a month earlier, so they might come during the month of October. So we have a leadership now that is willing to listen to all parties. Eskom itself has engaged into a massive recruitment where they have a crowd recruitment where people who raise their hands and they have what it takes to come and assist. That door is open to them now. All of these things were not open before. So we're quite confident that we will work this part together. But those of us who are close to the situation, we want to guarantee you there will be no load shedding in this country come the 1st of December 2023, and you will never see load shedding in the longest time after that.
Breaking news coming to you this morning, and that is a soundbite that we can definitely reflect on come the 1st of December 2023, Hlathi. Let me thank you for your time this morning. Hlathi Madela is the director at the SA Energy Forum.